YouTube, this is Bry Guy Builds with another episode. This last week, just finished up a couple days ago installing the lift kit on my 2022 Ford Ranger. Like I've mentioned in the past videos, it's a mild build. It's my daily driver. Didn't want a huge amount of lift. I'm building an off-road camper that when I do go out west, I'll set up a base camp, unhook from the trailer, and then go hit some trails. Not going to do any crazy obstacles. I had a Jeep I had built up for doing crazy obstacles. I really didn't enjoy it. Really just enjoyed the traveling around. On this video, we're going to talk about the lift kit, why I chose this particular lift kit, and then I'll kind of go over this tire size I'm going to be running. This is my spare tire I bought just to make sure it was all going to fit before I ordered the tires. And then I'll also take the camera off and show you the lift kit, and we'll kind of go from there. So if you watched any of the other previous videos, I had talked about I was contemplating going with the Bilstein 6112s in the front and the 5160s in the back. And after all my constant watching YouTube videos about the different suspension systems, I had to keep reminding myself I'm building a mild off-road build. This is not going to be anything hardcore. It's mostly going to be on the street 90% of the time, and for those 2 or 3 months that I spend out west doing some overland and some camping, a majority of that's going to be on the forest roads, gravel roads. There's not going to be a lot of hardcore stuff. Now granted, when I get on the trails and to find out the limitations on the system, I'm sure I'll do more and more difficult of trails. But so far the system's coming along pretty good. Without further ado, what I decided on was the ARB OME, Old Man Emu lift kit. The reason I went with the OME was it was a complete system. They're known for having a good quality ride and good components. The springs and the shocks are matched to the weight I decided to go with, which was a medium. Because I do have the front bumper with the winch, the hidden winch, I had a little bit of extra weight up there. I didn't want to go heavy because I didn't want the stiff ride. I still wanted a nice compliant ride for being a daily driver. In the back I went with the medium as well. Even though there's not going to be a whole lot of weight back there, I do have that auxiliary fuel tank, which is about 150 pounds. And I plan on having a storage box up there that I'll keep other tools and other things, the air compressor setup, maybe even a battery. And at most, I might put a little dirt bike or something in the back. So when you move up into the heavy in the back, that's really made if you're wanting to have a static 1,600 pound load back there all the time, which I knew that wasn't going to be the case, so I just went with the medium and the medium. So I pretty much have done everything myself. Nothing's been taken to the shop. You can do this kind of stuff in your driveway or in your garage, but there is a lot of specialty tools required. Just for instance, this nut right here holding the front axle in place, it's a huge socket. I just so happened that I had an uncle that was a farmer, and I inherited this huge, like 3/4 inch socket set. So I was able to get a socket with a big breaker bar to break that nut loose. Some of the videos on the installs of these suspension systems don't show removing that nut and kind of popping that CV axle out of the hub, so that when you're prying down on the lower control arm to get the shocks out and then the new ones back in, because new ones are taller, so you really got to be pushing down on them even more, that I made the mistake on this front side of not removing the nut. and then ended up pulling the CV axle out. So then I had to struggle to get that nut off, now with it disassembled, which was a pain in the butt, to be honest with you. And then I had to reinstall the CV axle in a straight, level plane to get it to go in. And then once I got it in, then I proceeded to rehook up the knuckle. On the other side, I did remove that axle nut and pop out the CV axle, and the other side went real smooth. So that was a little bit of a pain in the ass, because when that axle pops off and the boot comes off, well, now you got to get another clamp for that boot. I was able to kind of take apart the original Ford clamp and kind of spread the area where you clamp down on it after it attaches to make it, to snug it down. I was able to kind of spread that out and luckily get that Ford clamp back on and then tighten it back down so it's on there good, because you don't want to have that thing leaking grease all over the place. Of course, I'll keep up with it to make sure it's not leaking or anything. So, suspension system went really nice. The shocks on these, that's what my concern was with the shocks being the type of design it is, that it didn't have the big 2.5-inch body that Bilstein 6112, and it's just a totally different shock. It's valved for the Ranger at this weight class, this medium class that I bought. So I'm kind of hoping that that's going to do a good job. But really, the part of the kit I really liked was in the back. And I'll pick the camera up in a little bit and kind of go around and kind of show you the details, and so you can see everything. But the Ranger had a monoleaf in there with a secondary overload spring. Very linear spring, whereas the Old Man Emu has your 3 primary leaves and then an overload. So the multiple leaves lend to a smoother ride, and it's more progressive in the spring rate. So when the bed's empty, it's not real rough, it's nice and smooth, but as you add weight, it progressively gets taunter and taunter, and keeping the suspension system good. So really happy with the way that turned out. A little note on doing this yourself and the driver, there are some safety concerns. I made the mistake when I was doing the back that since I'm on the ground doing it, I went ahead and lifted the back axle, put them on jack stands, and then removed both left and right side tires, and then when I loosened up everything and was ready to pull those leaf springs out, and then of course I had to lift the body up to take the weight off of that spring so I could get it out. Well, not realizing as I was taking the weight off of this, I was taking weight off of those jacks I had underneath the axle. Now I had backup jacks, I had a lot of jacks on here and concrete blocks, but in the process of trying to finagle the polyurethane bushings into the eyelets of these new springs, I was kind of moving the truck around, and all it took was a little bit of movement, and I even had the front tires chocked, but it moved. And once it moved a little bit, the truck ended up falling about 6 inches. While I was underneath the back here, I saw it was slow, so I was able to roll out from under it, but it could have been real bad. So I thank the Lord for watching over me and keeping me safe. So when I did the front, I did put jack stands under the front frame, which I should have done here. I should have lifted the truck up high enough, put my jack stands underneath this frame here, and then it would just be a matter of finagling with the axle, lifting the axle up to take one side and one tire off. Always leave a tire on the ground. Take one side off and do it that way. So obviously keep in mind the safety concerns, when you're doing something like this, because obviously those leaf springs they locate the axle. So when those things aren't connected, the axle's not located, so like I say, that all it took was that little bit of movement to cause this thing to move a little bit and end up falling. So that's enough on that. So Uh, this here, so the stock tire that came with the truck, now this being the base XL, it just came with a Bridgestone Dueler HT, which is the highway tread. Pretty crappy tire. I had a finish nail in it, and I pulled it out, and my tire repair kit, I went to put the reamer through, it went right through the tire. Put the plug in, next day the tire's still flat. I didn't even hit the hole that the nail made. The plunger just went right through that tread. So I said, I can't take these tires off-road. So I kind of sped up the process of getting tires. So I really couldn't find a used tire in the size I was wanting to go. Oh, the original tires are 255 70/16. Moving up to a 17-inch wheel. I got real lucky on Marketplace. I found a guy that was selling 5 brand new 17-inch Steelies in the 17 by 7.5 width that came off of a Black Diamond Bronco, which was the wheel I was wanting. I really like the Steelies. I know they weigh more. I'd love to have some of those icons with the little bead protector bolts, you know, so you can air down more, but they're $350 a set. I like the way the Steelies look. They complete the look with the black and the blue. The truck's name is Bruiser, by the way, for the black and the blue. And I'm moving up, so this 255 70/16 on the truck is about 29 and a half inches. Moving up into a 255 80/17, which is advertised as a 33-inch tire, but you got to figure when it's mounted, maybe it's 32 and a quarter, 32 and a half. And I did find, I had to go on eBay and get one out of Chicago. I found a used ST Max in 255 80/17. Went ahead and mounted it on one of these, and I'll use that as my spare tire. And so I had to make sure that, you know, how much space I was going to have in here with the suspension, and as far as the crash bars, am I going to have any rubbing? And it looks like I got quite a bit of room. If I go with a spacer, the lug nuts are about 1 1/4 inches long, so I'd have to go with 1.5 inch spacer, and I'd just as soon keep those in. So I haven't yet kind of done a range of motion. I removed the front intrusion bars, crash bars, when I redid the bumper. So those are out, but I have yet not removed these baskets. But I don't think I'm going to need to. I mean, it's looking pretty good. Now, granted, I've got it lift up so that I can take the wheel off real quick so you can kind of see the front suspension over there. But I think this is going to be a nice setup. I've got, with it sitting on the ground after the lift kit, which is about, I think they called it a 2 3/8, but it came with a little trim packer, sort of a spacer on the top, which was 10 millimeters, which I think is like a quarter or a half an inch. And that brought my clearance right here up to about 17 inches on the pinch weld, and my clearance right down here on this front edge of the ARB bash plate is right at 12 inches with the stock tires. So once I add this tire, which is a good 2.5, 3 inches taller, I'm going to pick up 1 inch, 1.5 inches more height once I get these tires mounted. So everything, and in the back, it's about 1.5 inches lift. So you still maintain some rake. It's not really a leveling kit. It really looks good. And when I take the phone off of where it is now and walk around, you'll see the other side, it's on the ground, and you can kind of see how it's looking, not being jacked up any. And so I think once I get the tires, it makes the truck look so much more dimensionally correct. It's going to look great. I think it's going to perform awesome. I'm kind of leaning between the Falken Wild Peak ATWs or Nitto Recon Grappler. I watched a video on Light Bright. They have a new Bronco Raptor that they took the KO2s that came with the Bronco off, and they mounted some of those Nitto Recon Grapplers, and then they took it out and wheeled it. Did some pretty hardcore wheeling on it their first time out, and I was amazed at the tires. The way they hooked up, it just climbed up ledges. It was amazing. So that's the reason I'm kind of considering that. Not really considering about where, because hopefully if I pick the right tire, which I think all in all, because I do get snow and ice here, the Falcons are going to be a better buy. I want to be able to keep buying those tires over and over again, so when the tires wear out prematurely, I can go ahead and get a new set prorated and just keep buying the same tires over and over again. So that's kind of the plan as far as that goes. At this point, I'll take the phone and carry it around, and before I do that, I'll take this tire and wheel off so I can kind of show you the details on the kit, and then also show you what it looks like on the other side. All I've got left really is I've got the rock sliders that are hopefully going to be made this month, and the tires. I've got a trip for Thanksgiving. I'm going down to Texas. It'll be about a 1,500 mile round trip. I'm going to get a baseline on the gas mileage with the stock tires, and then when I get back, I'm going to mount up these bigger tires so I can get a comparison of how much of a mileage drop it was moving up to the bigger tires. Okay, come down here and get the camera. Alrighty. So you see in the front, I've got the crash bar removed. Sorry about that. And the shocks. Not much to it. You can see there's a lot more coils closer together than the stock springs, which I think is what gives it its compliance. You can also see down there the skid plates, the ARB skid plates, going all the way down. If we come around the back here, you'll get a view of those multi-pack leaves. Get a little bit more clearance between the bump stops. Really, other than that, it's a pretty basic system. And we'll come around to this side, which is sitting on the ground in a more accurate representation of the lift and the ground clearance I've gotten with the lift. And then, like you say, of course, I'm going to pick up more ground clearance when I add the tires. Alrighty guys, that's it for now. Like I say, all I've got left is those rock sliders and the tires and little things like lights, cameras. I did get the FORScan diagnostic tool, so I'll be able to change the settings in the ECU for the larger tires. And I'm also going to do a few other things like get rid of the buzzer for the seat belt, the warning about someone in the back seat, and then I might even add the terrain management. Right now there is no terrain management. For about $200 you can buy the knob that controls from 2 high, 4 high, and 4 low to include the terrain management button in the center. All you do is put that button in and then enable the gauges and the screen. So I'll probably even do that, and I'm sure there's quite a few other things that I can adjust with that FORScan tool. Alrighty guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It's really turning out nice. I'm really looking forward to getting the thing off road. It's got 750 miles on it, still brand new. I'm loving it, really do enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Once again, please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.